you will change your world. That is the world that you experience within yourself and also the world that you experience outside our external world. And you will accomplish both things the same way. And you will know if you're doing it by how happy you become, by how much you're willing to let go of anything that's held you back before, by how willing to become your authentic self. That's all that it is. You'll discover throughout your life that's all that you're ever doing. And I can prove it to you because, see, it only happens over time. And we have to use the only thing that we were given, and that's our consciousness. And that consciousness has been shaped by all of those who came before. It's been shaped by our previous existences, our previous civilizations, our previous ancestors, all of that stuff. So, what we have to do is decide we're going to change our world. And that is everything. And we only do that when we can take the journey of self acceptance, discover who we are, and decide to accept every aspect of who we are and our journey. Everyone's not going to do that. But then you start to understand that there is a science that is involved in everything, including the universe. Then you discover that you have an alignment, that you came into the world at a specific time to do something. And if you were to do that, it would change the world. Now, you may not get there right away because you may be doubting yourself. You may have thought it wasn't you, or that you were suffering from some delusion, or you had the imposter syndrome, or any of those things, because I had all of those too. So I do understand them. And then you may have even rejected things that were coming up and being exposed to you about what you were meant to do in this world, but you decided you were going to go a different way. I've done that one as well. So I do understand. But what you come to understand finally is that the best choice that you can make in every day of your life is to decide to choose yourself. But that may be a process because, see, you probably have been programmed to believe you weren't enough, that you couldn't do it, that you weren't the important one, and all of that stuff. And I know that is true because that's what I did. And so, but that was has informed my life, which told me, oh, if I keep going, then I'm going to heal. I'm going to understand things in a different way, and then I can give that to others. You're supposed to do exactly the same thing, but you're just supposed to do it in your way. So, what I have done is put together a message for you today, which I would have given you tomorrow. And I thought today would be a perfect day to do it because I want to explain how that happens. I have the ability to tap into universal consciousness, and I've done it for years. And because of that, I was able to put together a philosophy that could give anyone the ability to understand who they were, live the life they're meant to have, and then start to create a very different world. So then they're changing their world and changing our external world because that's what we're all supposed to do. And we're moving through a time right now where it's a little challenging, but that's because the planets and the galaxies and everything have changed that we've never experienced before. So it seems a little difficult, except I was given all that information. And then the results of that showed up in my life because at 73 years old, I started to heal. And I have to go back to tell you where I knew what was happening. And it's so funny because today I saw something come out that my former partner put out where he's promoting my whole singing thing. See, I had a whole another life before, a whole other career where I was making all this money and doing great things, and it was fun and wonderful. But then a curveball was thrown. And no, you have to change because you have something else you're supposed to bring to the world because people would love this. People would start to understand who they are. They would start to become happy. They would move through all the generational trauma they've experienced. They'll start to move through all of their insignificance. And then more people will start to creating the world that we all want to see. And I can prove I've done this because I had to start with looking at the ideas of racism and misogyny that existed within me. And people said, "Why are you talking about that?" I said, because I know that's what we're going to deal with. And unless we get it out of ourselves, we have to acknowledge that we've always existed. We're eternal spiritual beings. So our spirits have always existed, no matter what body you might come into, no matter what race you might be now or what gender, your soul has always existed. And so you decide in this time, am I going to move to the higher existence within me that would cause me to emanate light into the world instead of darkness, anger, and hatred. And the wonderful thing is, when you do that, you start to feel yourself physically heal. And then you heal mentally because you start to see things from a completely different perspective. So when I got up this morning, I was told, because I'm always guided, so are you. We have intuition. We don't always trust it. It becomes challenging at times because it's not real. We come into the world and we're used to only relying on things we can see that are tangible. And many people won't accept anything that I'm going to say here because they will look at things at only being this and that's it. We come in, we do this thing, and then we die, and that's it. I don't happen to believe that. I think we're here to make a difference. We're here to live great lives, and we're here to leave something that could cause others to do the same thing. Again, everyone's not going to come to that belief, but you have to decide what you're going to do for yourself, which is what I'm doing now. And I'm being pushed there because sometimes you have to be called out of yourself. We like to stay in our comfort zone. We don't want people to really see and understand us. Why is that? It's because we've been taught something else, but we have the ability to change it. So what I did, they told me to go back because there's an order in the universe, and I'm going to talk about this because these are concepts that are challenging for us to accept. When I was told that I had all this information, and there was one particular year, which is 2012, where more of it came through, and then also that I was given a message on everyone's birthday if I were to meet them that would tell them what they were up to at this time in the world, because we're moving through a dramatic change, which my Wilhelm is called a restructuring. But I had been given all of this information, and because I had this information, it caused healing to occur within me so that I could give that to others. You're supposed to do the same thing in whatever way that is showing up for you, because that would be in your authentic self. We all have it. Nobody's exempt from that. It's just that sometimes we don't want to change. And that's where this began. So when I got up, they said, take just a paragraph of each message we gave you from 2008. I said, okay, fine, I'll do that. And I'm going to show you, because that's going to be the message that will be on the site tomorrow on anyadvicefortoday.com. But I'll show it to you today because it'll help you so much, because we'll move through some energy shifts today and tomorrow. So if you are loving yourself and doing the next thing in front of you that's going to give you peace and joy and understanding, then you're going to add to creating a really much better world instead of still staying in the place where you're stuck and hating yourself and others and not contributing to creating the world that we all want to see. That's what happens. This is the message, and you will again see it tomorrow. But I'm going to give you a little bit of it and talk about it because I thought this would be really, really perfect. Now, I never understood what I was receiving at the time they were coming through, and it started in 1989. But I'm just going to start again going back to 2008, just so you can see that it's a progression in what we can accept and understand. It's a progression that we do individually, but it's also a progression that we do collectively, meaning the entire world. And if more of us had reached that other place, we wouldn't have the world that we see now. We would have no wars, we would have no anger and judgment and all of that stuff. But it takes a while for us to get there and accept it. Nothing you see or that appears to happen to you has any meaning except the meaning you give it. That's for each of us. Now we have to understand that's what we're doing all the time. But we can only put that meaning on something because of what we have learned before. And if we're not willing to change, how can we accept new information? And then we go to 2009. Change is the only constant that you seek. And that is the thing that's so difficult for all of us. We know that change is what we want, but we still don't do it individually and again collectively. And that is actually the major difficulty that we are seeing and witnessing in the world now. When you look at Gaza and Israel, for instance, and you wonder, why is that still going on? Because it's been happening for decades. It's been happening for centuries because people are not willing to change and they're going to hold on to their grievance. You might be doing the same thing, and the only thing that happens is that you start destroying your body. That's what happens because it's really stressful to do that. And then 2010, the only agreement you ever seek about anything at all is your own, meaning that we have this individual path this individual thing that we are meant to follow. But at this time in the world, you're going to see everybody else giving you something different. So it becomes your job to go within. That is when you feel good about yourself, when you're in your heart, you will understand who you are, and this is the right path for you, no matter what anyone else is telling you. And then in September 11th, linear time is a system you intended to use on your physical life journey to create a sense of order, if you will, through the organization of sequential events. Now, you may have heard about Carl Jung talking about synchronicity. Well, I discovered that as well. It's a connection. Everything is connection, and we can go into quantum entanglement. I just saw Billy Carson talking about that just a moment ago, because that is another concept we begin to understand as we're in these physical bodies living in this world. But then they took me to 2012, which is another time where we move through an energetic shift in our world, which would affect all of us individually and collectively. Today, choose to become more you. All you do during your physical life experience is based on whatever conscious choice you decide to make. Your life experience is not determined by what occurs in your world, but how you see it. And the way we choose to see something, again, is based on what we were told, what we think is possible, what we think we can do. And I can say this because I have talked about this work for so long, and it was really challenging for me to accept, really? Is this possible? Did I do this? And I can tell you that I did. See, I discovered even a couple of years ago, and there was a channeling session that came out then. You can probably find that, where it said I knew that I can answer anyone's questions, that I can guide anyone to the next level of who they were meant to become. Because I'm not doing it from this level of information. I'm always doing it from cosmic guidance. So when I'm doing a channeling session, I want you to understand this. And also because as I'm doing private channelings too, I want people to be very clear of what I do. I don't give you predictions of what's going to happen. I can interpret energy and feel where your blockages are and tell you if this is the right direction or that's the right direction based on your individual path and where you're meant to go in your life. I can do that, but I'll never tell you what's going to happen, because that takes away your free will. All of my work is about developing self-actualization, self-empowerment, and personal development. And it is something that any person can do because it happens in your consciousness. What I've done in this time in our world is develop a new philosophy to bring in, because we needed a change, because society has changed. We are still living in a time where we think certain races aren't as equal as others, or women aren't as equal as others. And we're trying to get to this other place of understanding, if we can accept all humans, we might create a much different world, because we would create that within ourselves first, because that ends the division, the separation, as that message talked about, because it exists within us. And if we can own who we are, because we are the world, we possess everything, then things change. However, you will come up with those who will not want you to do that necessarily. And so you're going to have to make that choice. Am I going to love myself? Am I going to move through all the old stuff that has held me back? Because I know that if I'm holding on to old ideas that do not serve the world, then they must not serve me either. That is the recognition you come to. And when you understand about moving to a different dimension of consciousness, that's true too. And the world is going to do the same thing. The planets are going to keep changing, and we will decide if we're going to resist the changes and go with them and live this really great life and be happy and heal, or if we're going to stay angry, hate ourselves and others, and stay in the same place we were. Those are the only choices. And so I wanted you to understand that. And this is the story that I told when I went to do Beyond Belief with George Norrie for Gaia. And I hope you hear that episode. But it is also the message that I am going to deliver on October 19th when I go back to talk about planetary ascension, because that's what we're moving through. We're moving through ascension within ourselves first, meaning letting go of the old stuff. But then we have the collective ascension, meaning the entire world is doing it, which is why you're seeing all the upheaval, so to speak, in every part of the world. And then the universe decided, let's do something else for all of the humans. Let's create a time where 60 some countries are going to have elections, meaning you're choosing something. And the choice that you're going to make is what causes you to feel good. And if you can relate to that place within you that knows you're here for a greater purpose and you can connect to that, nothing that goes on in the political scene will ever affect you because you have lived the life that you were given to live and you're creating that better world, which is within you. And then the bonus of that is that you create a happy life and prosperous and abundant life for yourself. And I know you can do it because that's the work that I was given. And that's the next portion of what I am doing because I'm putting all this work together. I showed you that those few messages, but I have probably 12,000 pages of this information that is all about personal development, self-actualization, and ascension. And it's all together. And that's what I'm doing. So my goal now is to finish all of this so I can get to the place where I can have this whole program where people will own it forever. You'll have it, but then I'm going to put a much different tuition on it because you'll never need to have anything else. So I'm not sure how much you would want to pay for something that would give you the ability to develop your internal sense of knowingness and to guide your life and become happy, prosperous, and successful. And so that's what it's going to be. You can join it now, or you can wait until later till it's a lot more money, but the result's always going to be the same. The thing that has held me back is that I can see who you are. I can know what you can do. And then it gets frustrating for me when you don't move. And then I didn't move either. That because I care so much about everyone. And that's something that I had to move over because I understand everyone's not going to do this work because you have to look at yourself and you have to move through all the old stuff. And you're going to see so many people in the world now that are not willing to do that. So we have to decide how many of us will move to that higher state of understanding. And that's the work that I have. Please share this with others. Subscribe to the video. Leave comments. I will get back to them. As long as they're not things that you're going to try and tell me, well, no, it has to be this way. I want you to really own who you are. That's the only reason I put this stuff out, and that is the only purpose of all the work that I've done because I know that the more people who decide to become their authentic selves, we create a much different world. We'll never see anything happening like we have experienced in the last several years again. That's what happens. See y'all soon. Thanks.